Yes, well, once upon a time. Once upon a time, an NVARC would operate field day, and we have 2 stations, and station 1 would interfere with station 2. And because of the rules, all your antennas have to be within a 1,000-foot diameter circle. So the problem with that is you can never get your antennas far enough away where one station doesn't interfere with the other when you're on adjacent bands. So we started to think about how about directional antennas. So that's when we started using like tri-banders and things like that. But you know, you may have a 20 dB front to back with a tri-bander, but 20 dB down doesn't really do much. And you can never get the antennas far enough away. And you're usually pointing both antennas southwest, so you never really get back to back or something like that. So we started looking at like interference mitigation, and we started to think about bandpass filters. Could we put bandpass filters on our transmitters and be able to use that? Well, you know, we're pretty cheap, we're hams. And you could buy these filters, but nobody was going to buy them just for field day. So Bob Reef, W1XP, decided he was going to design his own bandpass filters. And so he designed them on the cheap using computer power supply chassis, and we wound coils on PVC pipe, on forms, yes. And I think the most expensive part in there there's some high quality capacitors, and then of course the SO239 connectors. I forget exactly how much the parts were, but like maybe today it might be, I don't know, $30 in parts maybe, possibly. But the computer chassis at the time, Stan KD1LE, was working in Boston and had a glut of old power supply chassis that he tore the innards out of. And so that's what we did. So Bob's goals on being able to do this was he wanted an insertion loss of less than 1 dB. He wanted rejection to the next band, field day band, so not WARC band, but field day band, of at least 40 dB. He wanted it to be able to take 100 watts, a barefoot transmitter. I'm trying to remember some of the other, he wanted to have a uniform design band to band. So if you're going to use a pi filter, you wanted to use the same type of components. And it wanted to be reproducible. So there were 4 of us that made these filters. So here's the 10-meter filter. There's the inductors, here's our capacitors, and the SO239 connectors, and there's what the schematic of it is. And I know it's impossible to see this, but it's less than a dB of insertion loss, and I think this is 36. It's not quite 40 dB of rejection. So if you think about it, if you have almost 40 dB of rejection on the transmitter and almost 40 dB of rejection on the receiver, you have almost 80 dB of isolation between station A and station B. That's pretty good for a $30 filter. Here's the 15-meter one. Again, less than a dB of insertion loss, and then, more than 40 dB of rejection here, and I think 35 or so here. Bob's, when he built his, I think he did a better job. His came closer to 40 in general. Mine, some are 40 and some are not.
By the way, the plans for these are all
on the web page. Yeah.
And if you do a Google search on NVARC ugly filters, you'll find that there's a number of people around the world that have built these filters.
A couple of YCCC members, Mark Pride, I think, built a set.
I know in one case, the author went through and poo-pooed the design, and over a period of a couple of years, on each of the things that he objected to, he came around and like you could see the light going off each time. So these are very clever filters.
But on the webpage is effectively like a huge article on everything you want to know about it, from the schematic to the materials to pictures to plots to, I mean, these are my own, but he's got plots, and then he's got, yeah, he's got, you know, I think templates for the 80 meter one where he had to bend metal. You know, he's got tips, construction tips. Yes, John?
Wasn't this a QSD article?
I don't know if he ever did that. I know he wanted to. The question was, did Bob ever write a QST article? And I'm unsure about that.
No, they did when they did the Fox Finder. That was a QST article.
Yeah.
But I don't think the ugly.
I think it should have been, definitely. He did a great job. So this is the 15 meter. Here's the 20 meter. 20 meters is a nice filter. It's a nice steep curve. The 40 meter. And the 80 meter one is sort of interesting because it's built into two computer power supply chassis. The design was slightly different, if you notice. It's sort of a modified pi filter. And so again, less than a dB, much less than the dB of insertion loss, and 40 dB on the 40 meter band, the bottom of the 40 meter band. So those are the ugly filters. I think that's it. Yeah, those are the ugly filters we use. If anybody cares, we can try to measure some of these. I have a nano VNA. We can go through and measure any of them. I can pop a cover off if you wish. Just let me know. Yes.
Is there a reliable source for those chassis?
Is there a reliable source for the chassis?
Your average dollar.
If you go to a computer repair place, they will give them to you.
They'll have to take all of the power supply stuff with them.
Yes, but you basically open them and you clean them out. But that's what Stan did. Stan had I don't know where he was working. NEC?
He was working at NEC and he had
oodles of them.
I think they replaced PCs every 3 days or something like that. Roll out, roll it out,
right. So anyway, these are great little filters. Bruce made the mistake of giving one a little bit too much of SWR and popped the cap a couple years ago, I think. But we were able to fix it easily.
And put new smoke in?
Yes, there's new smoke in there.
And by the way, an external antenna tuner that goes behind the filters now, so that the SWR is perfect.
Right.
The QSD article, the ARRL doesn't have QSD article for it. I just looked it up 3 years ago. A gentleman named John did an ARRL YouTube video. It's posted by the ARRL website. I'm building a coil monthly valve.
So there is one 160 meter version of this that was built by Bob. I don't think anybody else built one other than, I think Bob just wanted to finish the set. Yes, John. Oh, so John sent me a link. I guess AliExpress has got bandpass filters, and he actually bought us some. Did you bring them? No. Okay. I was going to say if I don't. Yeah, I'd be happy to measure them when you want to. I'm curious how they stack up. Yeah. Yeah, not bad.
By the way, a couple of years after Bob designed these and we built these, there was an article in QSD about building a diplexer for field day, so that two stations could share a tri-bander. And I said to Bob, I said, we ought to look into building one of these so that we can share a tri-bander and simplify the antennas. And Bob scratched his head and said, I think if we just cascade two ugly filters and tie the outputs together, 20, 15, and 10, the output's a high impedance, If we just tie them together, it should work. And so he went home and he tried it and he said, this works great. So we used to, with 2 stations, I built a 2x6 antenna switch, 2 transmitters sharing 6 antennas, and 3 of those 6 antennas were 20, 15, and 10 meters. We would tie the outputs to feed the tri-bander, and so we could operate 1 station on 20 meters, 1 station on 15 meters at the same time with no interference between the stations.
And so in your pictures, that's the big box you had.
That was the big box that was in the pictures,
right.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Wait, I have an announcement.
An announcement.
I didn't get the intro when I came in here, but on K1LGQ or one last.
Well, you were late then.
You know, this is June, and I just want to make my announcement.
Yeah.
This is my 66th year RF. I've been blazing for 66 years.
Well, congratulations.